Good morning, afternoon, evening, or night, ladies, gentlemen, and otherwise. My name is Marcus Future, and welcome to another art and a story sort of deal. This one's a little more, I guess, of a rant and a story, rant and art type of deal. Because I'll be honest, I started sketching this out, and I realized I was going to take a lot of time on it. So I was like, I should record this. I'll make something out of it later. And now I'm here recording, and I'm still not entirely sure what it is I'm going to say here. Well, I do have a little bit I'm going to say. So basically, the topic here, well, I'm going to have some music playing and the video here in the background. I'm going to talk about my favorite things. One of my favorite things, which is actually Mecha, which is why I'm drawing Getter Robo here. And for those of you who are new here and are here because Getter Robo is in the thumbnail, cool, thanks. Stick around. I'd love for you to stick around and sound off in the comments. I feel so lonely sometimes. But if you're someone who watches the rest of my content and you're just like, what the fuck is this guy? Uh, I guess Get a Robo's in Super Robot Wars, which is one of my longest running things. Anyway, I just kind of want to talk on it because I really like mecha shows, especially Super Robots. And it kind of sucks too, because when ever since I was born in 2003, by the way. Mecha has in anime fan discourse been considered to be dying. Like that has been the discourse TM about it, about mecha ever since I was born. um because like I think at that point Gundam Wing had kind of stopped being the thing in English speaking territories, so it was now people were like Evangelion Gundam Wing had already happened and there wasn't as much of an industry influence with mecha anymore. And I mean, I personally that's the world I've lived in this whole time. I've just been like, I can accept that. I'm not gonna be like, okay, it doesn't. I disagree with the notion that mecha is dead. Because that's always the notion is like, oh, this is gonna revive mecha. Mecha's gonna be brought back with it. I don't think it's dead. It's niche. It's niche now because, well, it's hard to make. Mecha is hard to make. It's very technical animation and it's very technical design. As you can see right here, I'm struggling to draw it in one frame still. And I've drawn Shin Getter Robo before. I'm gonna try to put up a picture of that here, wherever it is I am in the video here. Um, After I've recorded this, I've drawn Shin Getter before, so it's not like I'm a particular stranger to how this thing looks, and so it's just I can accept that it's a very difficult thing, and I appreciate seeing these things done really well. But I also like I said, I disagree with the notion that it's dead. It's niche and it's expensive, but when it exists, I think we still get some really good stuff out of it. Gundam Witch from Mercury was a very good show. That's a real robot, and obviously I'm here to talk about super robots. That's Getter Robo, one of the classic super robots. So what's going on with super robots? Well, I mean, we had Bravern at the start of 2025, I think, and was that 2025? I think I can't even remember anymore. It also helps that I have like no fucking perception of time, so it's just like there hasn't been any good mecha in forever. I'm like, nah, what are you talking about? Like I said, this is more just rambling. I'm just rambling here, but it's like Bravern was really nice. It was a really nice super robot show. Um, Unfortunately, the last Get a Robo thing was Get a Robo Arc. Uh, I've been meaning to look into it, and like I should give it a full watch through before making any judgments on it. But like I've seen the trailers, and it doesn't look good. I haven't watched it yet because I've just been kind of I don't have any other services that it's on, and I'm too lazy to do piracy half the time. Um, that's always my argument against piracy. Is like I'm just too lazy for it. And they're like, oh, pirate it. And I'm like, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like going turning my ad blocker on, and it just, I don't feel like it. I have very little morality against piracy for stuff that isn't being sold anymore. That's kind of my moral line, if you're curious. But as it as it pertains to Getter Robo Arc, technically it is being sold. I have thought about buying the Blu-ray. Mostly because I just like Getter Robo. I like having Getter Robo stuff, and most Getter Robo stuff outside of DVDs and Blu-rays is fucking mind-bogglingly expensive. But yeah, Getter Robo Arc is, I've been told, a bit of a mess, which is a shame because like the last Mazinger project was beautiful. I loved Mazinger Z Infinity. That was awesome. And like Getter Robo and Mazinger are kind of always conjoined in conversation because well, Ken Ishikawa was Go to Guy's apprentice, I think. I'm trying to. I don't even know if I have that correct. He worked with Go to Guy either way, and that's how Getter Robo came to be created was because the two worked together. And so it's just it's a very classical. Getter is just always been connected to Mazinger, at least to me, and so like honestly, I'll be honest. I got into Getter through Super Robot Wars. A Portable was how I got introduced to Getter. Which what a way to get introduced to Getter. Mostly because that's the '70s anime version of Getter Robo, which is just frankly not Getter Robo. I don't know. I don't know how many people who are seeing this will have even seen anything of the '70s anime version, but like um it was done by Toei back then. It's '70s, right? Yeah, it's '70s because it was shortly after Mazinger started like taking off, and like Toei was like, "We need another one." So like in in the '70s anime, Ryoma is just kind of what I would call a straight man in like a comedy sense. Like he's a very sane person, which is not how Ryoma acts in literally any other version of Getter Robo that I've seen. There are versions of Getter Robo that I haven't managed to get my grubby little fingers on, but that's just how it is liking such an old and storied franchise. And so it's interesting that was my introduction, and then after that I think my next thing was Armor Shin Getter Robo, the series, not the robot, or New Getter Robo technically, which I watched on an actual streaming service because it was on there. I think it was on Retro Crush. Retro Crush is pretty cool. I like Retro Crush. That was neat, and that's a lot more faithful to who those characters are. Although they combined Musashi and Benkei, which is that's a choice. I get it when you have only like I think it's a 12 episode series. It's like we're not gonna kill a character and introduce his replacement in this fucking short ass TV series. But it's interesting. Now like because Getter to me is really funny because it's like I don't normally like things that are kind of horrific or existential, but Getter Robo just kind of works for me. I fuck with it. I fuck with it heavy. Uh, and then from like obviously Getter Robo wasn't even like the first super robot I was into. That would have probably been Gurren Lagann or technically Transformers. If we're saying it has to be a piloted mecha, Gurren Lagann would have been the first super robot series I ever watched. Which it's a classic. I haven't drawn anything Gurren Lagann, mostly because the mech designs are a little greebly. They got a little much going on. And then yeah, I think it was yeah. So I got into Gurren Lagann. I was already into Gundam. I was into Gundam from sometime in middle school. Um, which like that's one of my arguments against like people say, oh, Mecha's dead because it's like oh it's just Gundam. Like, okay, but Gundam's putting out bangers. Gundam puts out bangers. Granted, there are some people who really hate what Gundam does nowadays. And people are like, oh, this ruined Gundam. I remember an opinion I saw that I really agreed with was nothing can ruin Gundam. Gundam is too big now. You could put Sunrise could put out 5 series of Gundam that you hate, but it won't matter because someone else liked it. Because Gundam is just that kind of thing now. There's something in it for everyone. Like they have basically slice of life series. And it's interesting. Mecha is very, very interesting to me. And like I said, this is just kind of me rambling about Mecha because I don't really have terribly many people in my real life to ramble about Mecha to. So, YouTube audience, whatever 3 of you end up watching this video. um, but like, I don't know. I think Mecha's honestly, I think it's in a pretty decent spot. GQX did pretty well from my understanding. Oh, I think a lot of problems that are probably going to come up with Mecha in the near future are going to be streaming related, right? Because streaming is in a fucking shit spot, right? There was Grandizer U very recently, and I know there's a lot of controversy around that, mostly because it was funded by Saudis. The Saudi, I don't even fucking remember what they call it, but it was funded by the Saudi government, basically. And like Getter Robo is a very important thing, I believe, to the people of various Middle Eastern countries. Um, which that's cool. That's cool to learn about. But obviously that never got officially translated into English. Nobody picked that one up for English licensing, which is crazy because Crunchyroll reported on the story of it being created. They did not pick that up. I'm not bitter about that. I just wanted to watch it, and it's interesting because like a lot of the classic Super Robot stuff just doesn't get touched anymore, and like Kenny Shikawa's dead now, so obviously I understand not wanting to touch Getter. And why am I paused here? Okay, um, sorry, I just noticed that there's a very long freeze frame in there. I think I was looking off to the other monitor for something. Um, there's a fun fact. I am watching the video back as I talk here. But like, I understand why Get a Robot doesn't get touched. Go Nagai is still around. Obviously, I don't think he makes much of anything anymore. Just because he's, at least if he does, I hope it's not like too serious. Because like he's up there in age. Um, but like these things just don't get touched too terribly often by anything outside of Super Robot Wars. And I think that's kind of a shame. I think is Brave Universe Sword Grader still going? I know that's another classic Super Robot thing is the Braves, the Brave series. Gal Gaigar is kind of the only one that ever got put into English, and that remains true to this day. And I resent that. Gal Gaigar is great, but I think some of the other Braves would be really cool to have them around. But I think the state of mecha is always in flux, right? It's a genre mainstay, and that's why like a lot of people are very critical of like the new mecha series and like the stuff that does come out. And there's always like, oh, it needs to adapt to survive, but when it does that, it gets weird, and that's what like Frank's was, and and that makes I think mecha is it's like yeah, it is a thing that is very often just kind of one of the retro things, right? And a lot that's because like fucking dude, they were doing some crazy shit in the 80s and 90s with mechanical animation all the time. And it's just a thing. Cuz like nowadays, we generally want to treat animators like humans. And so to save time, you people who want to do mecha will do push for 3D CG, and I know Sunrise is even doing 3D CG mecha nowadays, just because it's easier. It's easier to animate like that than trying to hand draw it like this. And yeah, I get it. And Sunrise is doing really well with 3D CG. And honestly, like the thing that turned me around on 3D CG Mecha was Mazinger Z Infinity. That is it's such a beautiful movie. It manages to do so much with the mechanical animation, and like honestly, the thing that fully brought me around to it was how Boss Borat is animated in that movie. It's amazing. It's very very true to how Boss Borat is supposed to be, and I really like that. And I think that sort of like time the mixture of animation is always in this interesting flux of trying to be both artistically viable and financially viable, right? Because people love anime as an art form, and mecha anime especially is beloved as an art form because people fucking love to see some machines working as machines should. So when you animate machines like that poorly, people get upset. Uh, so like I think being able to create a version that manages to get the best of both worlds of being both expressive and well made and animated while also saving time so that animators can live past the age of 27. You know, and that's I think it's a good thing. It's just there's always going to be bad with the good, and I think that's kind of like where like Getter Robo Arc is. Um, but there's like a question of like how much new mecha is even being made. And it is a question that gets kind of thrown to my face as someone who likes the Super Robot Wars series, because now they're adding stuff that ain't even robots. They added a Kamen Rider in the most recent one. There's a legitimate Kamen Rider in Super Robot Wars Y, and in 30 they had that what's his bucket Gridman, who is also technically a tokusatsu sort of character, but he was given an anime. So it's just kind of it's always a question there. I do think it's interesting, like because like, I think part of it is just rights, you know, but also like I feel like most companies that make a mecha series are probably going to. I imagine they would probably be reasonably amenable to being in Super Robot Wars. I'm still shocked that something like Darling in the Franxx hasn't been put into Super Robot Wars yet. Like the Big O is in Super Robot Wars Y, which is what a fucking random one to be in there. It's just an interesting thing. I'm rambling like an old man, frankly. But I love mecha, and I've always liked mecha. I've like there's been some part of it is like maybe I should try to like add into it, try to build my own stuff. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that because like as you can see here, this is like drawn up at like 300% speed each of these clips. So this is taking me a while. I think this specific picture took me 4.5 hours or so, something like that. Um, and I mean like I loved doing it, but I don't think I can. I don't even think I can make a web comic like this, dude. With this thing, and I'd have to come up with my own designs too, which means I would have to be practiced enough with my own designs to draw it competently like this. I was referencing reference pictures made by other people, design sheets made by other people to make this. So like I would have to go and make my own design sheets, and I would have to be able to draw it again and again and again consistently. Which again, like that's part of why mecha isn't as big anymore, is because well, it's not enough of a driving force to make that worth it, right? It's not. It doesn't bring in as big of numbers as all that anymore. So spending that much time learning to draw robots and mechanical animation it just isn't worth it as much. And now we move into the part where this is actually a time lapse of some extra shading and stuff. This is interesting because I haven't actually looked at this terribly much yet. I drew this part on a live stream. Yeah. I really like Getter Robo. And like I said, if you're seeing this video and you think that it'd be cool to talk to me about super robots, there should be a link to a Discord in the description. Click that link. If you're still here, clearly you must like something about my opinions. Um, but it's I Robo's like sort of themes and attitude have always really drawn me in particular, especially Ryoma. I think it's very fun because especially because it's very unique in the landscape, right? Like you get a lot of very reluctant pilots, right? Like Amuro, Shinji. I would honestly even throw Koji Mazinger's pilot into reluctant pilot every once in a while. He's not exactly um like that. And like they're all very very good people. Usually they're good people at heart. Most Gundam pilots, mecha pilots usually, and like even like the Braves obviously are very good people at heart. And then you get to like everything else, and I'm running out of time. Oh shit. Oh no. But Getter Robo is very violent. Okay. Anyway, here's the end credits where I'm gonna throw this in here. Yeah. Thank you for watching. I rambled a bit there, and when I finally got to a point, the video was over. So if you like this one, I have other art videos. I think this is probably one of my best works in a long time, though. It's very neat. Like I said, there's a Discord if you want to talk to me more. That'd be cool. Um, Otherwise, thank you all for watching. And I don't know when my next video is. If you're new here, though, I usually do videos on video games and my own video game that I've been developing, but occasionally I do stuff like this where I just make an art piece and talk over it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. And until next time, stay safe out there.